good morning, good afternoon, o unsa ba ni na oras nimo tan-awon sir and classmates. So, in this experiment 1, we will be introducing to you the analytical chemistry. So, we are from the group 6 and I am the first one to report. I am Maria Moralati Nieves, and so, as we go along with this topic, expect jud mo nga we will be dealing with a series of experiments that involves mixing a solution. So, in this lesson, naami target na objectives, which are
So, our objectives for this experiment are to gain experience in recording data and explain observations. Second is to develop skills in handling gaswares and transferring chemicals. Third is to become familiar with basic safety precautions in the laboratory.
So, I am here to introduce what is analytical chemistry. Anachem is a measurement sciences that consists a set of powerful ideas and methods that are useful in all fields of sciences, engineering, and medicine. Dili lang nagastik sa ato ang mga medtech students ang chemistry, ang analytical chemistry. Ginatakal gihapon ni siya sa uban ng mga courses which involves science jud. Kay tanan jud nga mga chemistry nga tanan nga mga solutions or ang mga ginahubuhat sa mga laboratory dili naman gud siya nga ingnon nga sa ato ara mga medtech no. So daghan po ng mga courses na ginakuha gihapon nila ang subject nga analytical chemistry for future purposes. And then analytical chemistry is the study of chemical characterization of matter. It provides the methods and tools to deduce the qualitative, spatial, quantitative, and speciation aspects of analytical sciences. Sa ato ang lecture, sa ato ang analytical chem, gitagaan naman tag-overview ni Sir Onyez, no? So, kabalo na, kahibaw na ta sa mga basics, sa mga kung unsa man jud ang analytical chemistry. So, ang ako karon is i-brief, summarize na lang nako sa inyo unsa jud ang nakapaloob sa analytical chemistry. So, chemistry is a science that studies the compositions and properties of matter. As we go along, dagan tag ma-encounter na mga solutions. So, ma-fall na siya sa liquid. So, halimbawa, diri sa amo ang mga umaabot ng mga experiments, maka-encounter pud mo og mga sodium chloride na mga reagents which is in a form of the solid. So, as we go along, mas ma-prove ninyo nga ang chemistry is all about the properties of matter. Next. Chemistry is the branch of sciences that studies matter. Naingon naman ako ganina, no? And its organization into substances, as well as the properties of substances and how they interact with each other throughout the universe. Sa chemistry, dili lang na siya only pure substances. Napod sa chemistry nga mga mixtures, napoy mga unpure substances, basta daghan jud as we go along jud daghan ta ma-encounter na mga properties of matter. And analytical chemistry is focused on identifying what substance and how much of them are present in a sample of matter. Kay diri sa amo ang report na atay 4 na student experiments. And then diha na atay mga series of mass, volume, grams, millimeter, ml, ganyan. Makaka-encounter talaga tayo ng mga ganyang mga measurements. So, halimbawa, diri sa isa na experiment na ay isa ka flask na 100 ml na siya isulod na mga pure solution. So, i-kuan nimo dito, i-identify nimo og how much katong ml nga reagents nga dapat ibutang dito para maka-came up og something somehow solution. Like sa amo magbutang kag methylene na color blue, pila dapat ka fix na amount of methylene ibutang nimo dito. So maano jud ka dili ta ma-fall sa how much of them are present in a sample of matter. Next.
So hello, I am Eduardo III Cedino, the next reporter. So before we start our experiment, we are obliged to do a scientific method na structure ng mga steps. So we have 3. Step 1, perform a planned experiment. Make observations and record data. Step 2, analyze the data and propose tentative hypothesis to explain the experimental observations. Step 3, conduct additional experiments to test the hypothesis. If the evidence supports the initial proposal and the hypothesis may become a scientific theory.
So, sa atong experiment, ang mga equipments na ato ang gamiton is first is 1,000 ml for Florence plus topper. Second is 13 times 100 millimeter test tube. Third is 2 spatulas and 250 ml beaker. And the last is 100 ml beaker. So let's move on to the reagents. So atong reagents na gamiton sa atong experiments is first 10 grams glucose in 300 ml, 0.5 mole potassium hydroxide plus, and this disappearing blue solution 10 ml of 0.1 gram per liter methylene blue solution. Second is calcium chloride, ammonium chloride, sodium ammonium chloride, and copper sulfate solution, and last is calcium metal.
Okay, hello, I'm Eduardo III Cedino. Again, I am explaining you the first experiment that we will going to perform, and it is called disappearing blue. In this experiment, we will going to transform methylene blue from blue to colorless and back again by mixing it with glucose and shaking the solution, then letting it settle. This experiment lasts about 3 to 5 minutes or about 15 to 20 minutes is for the needed of the experiment. So we are going to start with by adding the glucose into the 1000 ml Florence flask, and then followed by the sodium hydroxide, and lastly we're going to add the methylene blue. This experiment we will going to introduce the rules of observations and hypothesis in the scientific method. So kumbaga, as we go on in this experiment, we are going to observe bakit kaya naga-turn into ang blue naging transparent, then magbalik na naman sa blue ang color ng liquid. The removal of the color blue is caused siguro by the glucose, but of course pag sa experiment nato ito pa na mabalan kung sagyod ang atong tinuod na results. To be clear, the process that we will going to do is first, we will going to add the glucose. It is in a solid form, followed by the sodium chloride. Next is we will add the methylene blue. Then after that, we will going to enclose it with a stopper. After all of that, we're going to shake the Florence flask or the bottle until all the glucose will dissolve. And after some time, we will see some results kung bakit naging transparent ang liquid and magbalik na naman into blue.
Hello everyone, My name is Darling Aloha Enuso. I am explaining the experiment 3. The reagents that will act in this experiment are ammonium chloride and calcium chloride, and don't forget that the pure substance is distilled water. So the two reagents that we will be using are ammonium chloride and the calcium chloride. And the equipments that we will be using are test tubes and spatula. So the first step was put the two reagents in a separate test tube for observation purposes. Then type A and B test tubes to be specific. Second step is fill it with distilled water and hold the both bottom part of the test tubes. Third step is feel the changes in the temperature of each tubes. Fourth is observe. So, bakit yung type A test tube that contains ammonium chloride kay naging cold? Tapos yung type B test tube that contains calcium chloride kay naging hot or mainit. So, this is my answer. Sa type A test tube that containing ammonium chloride, a heat of solution of ammonium chloride is positive. Therefore, it absorbs heat from the solution and the solution becomes cold. Tapos, yung sa type B test tubes that contains calcium chloride is solid calcium chloride is deliquescent. Meaning, it can absorb enough moisture to convert to liquid brine. When dissolved in water, solid calcium chloride releases heat in an exothermic reaction. So, gi-research na ako kung unsa ang exothermic reaction. It is a chemical reaction accompanied by the evolution of heat.
So, hi, my name is Francine Dayan Bilongote. So, I'm going to tackle the active and unreactive. So, nata diri mga gamiton or nata diri ang atong mga gamiton para sa experiment sa active and unreactive. So, half fill a 250 ml beaker with distilled water. Place an iron nail and a small piece of calcium metal in the water and record your observations. So, when we say active and unreactive, so active or active substance or active ingredients refers to a chemical substance that has a therapeutic effect. And ang unreactive means not reacting chemically or not participating in a chemical reaction. So, naata diri illustration. So, ang setup, mao ni siyang setup of experiment. So, naata diri distilled water. So, kaning distilled water, ibutang nato siya diri sa beaker, which is naa siya measurement na 250 ml. Then, after that, i-mix nato or ibutang nato ang iron nail as long as ang calcium metal. But before anything else, for the information of everybody, so if i-mix nato ang calcium metal diri sa distilled water nga naa diri sa beaker, so ang result ana is magbubble siya. So the calcium metal begins to bubble vigorously as it reacts with the water, producing hydrogen gas and a cloudy white precipitate of calcium hydroxide. So diri pa lang sa duha na solution or substance nga atong gamiton naa na siya reaction. Kay ano man siya ang calcium metal sa water, so mag-result siya na mag-bubble. So mao na siya ginatawag na active. Then if i-mix nato or ibutang nato, ibabad nato ning iron nails diri, so wala pa man nato siya na-perform or wala pa pud siya nako na-try, and para pud sa among pag-research wala pud mi nakit-an og unsa man jud ang result ani. But then naami nakit-an sa YouTube na if litmus paper ang ato ang gamiton na ibabad nato diri sa beaker na naay distilled water with calcium metal, so mag-react siya sa litmus paper na mag-turn siya into other color. So dira pa lang nimo makit-an na ang substance nga atong gigamit is active. So mao lang po siya. Thank you.
So, I am the last one to report. So, my part is the experiment 4, which is the copper nails. Copper nails, it involves a 100 ml beaker, and also we can see there is a nail in it, and then a solution that is called copper sulfate solution. As you can see, the pure substance is here and the impure substance is here. So, ang tawag ani ni reagent is copper sulfate kanang color blue. And then if i-mix na siya nimo, mix it with a spatula or something, and then mahimo na siya nga color blue. And then next, put the nail as it is in the instruction. Magbutang jud kag nails. Next is observe. So, nganong na-turn man siya into green after a few seconds. So, here is my some sort of seeking an information in the internet. So, when an iron name or the ferrum is dipped in a copper sulfate, there takes reaction between them and copper sulfate change its color from blue to light green. This shows iron is more reactive than copper. It can replace copper in color blue and here is in a color green light. So, ganon. Ganun lang ka-simple yung mga 4 na student experiments na na-assign sa aming group, and we hope na nakasabot mo as we try our best to explain further kung unsa mo ang mga na-self-study about this specific experiments. So, for the last part of our pre-laboratory reporting, we will move on to the related, how this topic related to medical laboratory. So, as a medical technologist, unta, Jude, nakakuha mo, lesson diri. Okay? These experiments introduce us the roles of observation and hypothesis in a scientific method. Also, used in the chemistry classes to illustrate oxidation and reduction reactions and also to study the rates of chemical reactions. For me, in my vernacularly speaking, kita nga mga medtech students, no? So, sa relatedness na. So, unsa ba jud ang relatedness sa kanina mga experiments sa tuang nga mga medtech students? In medicine, sa ato adang profession pohon, ug tama gani ato ang test, the physicians will be able to diagnose diseases more accurately. Og explain nako siya broadly, ang kaning experiment nga amo ang gipang-elaborate karon sa inyo is closely pariente ni siya sa ato ang profession, since we will be dealing more on laboratory. Medical technologists make valuable contributions to patients' care by performing clinical laboratory procedures. Kita nga medical technologists ga-collecta and analyze samples of blood, tissues, body fluids using the latest technology and analytical techniques. In realization, try to look at the bigger picture. The more nga nahasa ta karon sa mga laboratory experiment na sa tanang test imong giran is ang result kay accurate and precise, what more if naga-duty ka na as medtech? Kay diba, we performs as a full range of laboratory tests, from simple premarital blood test to more complex tests to uncover diseases such as AIDS, diabetes, and cancer. So meaning, we are holding life and death in our hands. Dapat jud tamag mali sa tuang mga lab results. Kay katong information nga atong ihatag sa doctor will definitely influence the medical treatment nga ilahang i-advise sa patients. So maura to ang relatedness for me sa kani na report. Thank you. So once again, we are your reporter, Maria Morala Torres Nieves.
I'm Eduardo III Sibino.
I am Frenchlyn Diana B. Langgote.
I am Darling Aloha Yusuf.
And I'm Amirjan Ternio.
Saying, thank you for listening.